lot of voters in the back.
All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Right down now, thank you. Great. So great to see everyone's smiling faces once again for our annual town meeting. Good evening. My name is Sean Clancy, your neighborhood town moderator, and it is my honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to Carver's annual town meeting. Please note that portable listening devices are available upon request. Please simply raise your hand and we'll get one for you. Also, we have portable microphones for those who are unable to approach the microphones in the front. If you simply raise your hand during debate, someone will come and approach you with a microphone. All registered voters who are residents of the town of Carver are asked to sit in the front boxes here. For the most part, if you are not a voter, or not a registered voter in the town of Carver, we ask that you sit in the far back, what would be your right-hand side or my left-hand side. So this far back box over here. So if you are not a registered voter, please make your way up into that section now. Tonight's proceedings will be recorded and broadcast by Area 58 Cable Television and are taking place in the Carver Middle High School auditorium at 60 South Meadow Road in Carver, Massachusetts. A special thanks goes out to the folks at Area 58 and also Michael Shaw, who is our audio extraordinaire and many other things as well too, who has helped us get everything hooked up and working for us tonight, including our wonderful new monitor in front of me that shows me the votes and all of our power needs and everything like that. So he's done a phenomenal job. And the folks, Rich Goulart and the folks at Area 58 as well too. And Dave Siedentop, Director of Operations and Maintenance, and the custodial crew who helped set up the auditorium and work every day to maintain the schools and do a fantastic job. So thank you guys for all your hard work. Also, if you weren't here last year, I'm sure you noticed a big change in the check-in process as we've introduced electronic voting. We please ask that the voting clickers not leave the building. That's very, very important. Those cannot leave the building. You cannot bring them home with you. I'm not sure why you would want to. They're not really useful for much other than voting here at town meeting. There will be a station where you will return them on exit. The voting last year went very well. It was simple, painless, and made our meeting more efficient. We will have a brief opportunity to do a trial run on the voting system before we get underway. Please also keep in mind that if you get up to leave for the restroom or something, you must place your voting clicker in a basket on the way out. So do we have somebody over there with the basket? They can raise their hand. Yep, there you go. So just make sure you hand your clicker to that gentleman there. You don't want to leave it behind because someone could grab it and place a vote in your absence. And if we do detect or see that that's going on, we're going to have to recount the vote, and nobody really wants to do that, right? So just be mindful of that as you're leaving the room. Out of respect and courtesy for our proceedings, please silence your cell phones to vibrate. And with that said, Town Clerk Kara Dayhill has advised me that we have a quorum of at least 150 qualified voters. 150 qualified voters is required this evening because we have one or more items on the warrant that involve bonded indebtedness. Keep in mind also that 150 voters is required for each night of the meeting. So if we go multiple nights, we will need you to come back so that we can finish our business. So I declare, therefore, a quorum being present, this annual town meeting will be called to order at 6:13 p.m. on Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. At this point, all who are eligible, please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Then please remain standing as we observe a moment of silence for all the public servants we've lost in the past year. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Sorry. Excellent. Thank you. You may be seated. At this point, I'd like to introduce you to all the fine people that are sitting up here in front of you who have worked painstakingly to prepare this warrant and carry out the business of the town over the past year. First and foremost, Mr. Scott Neef, Superintendent of Carver Public Schools. And Stephanie Clougherty, the School Committee Chair. And Stephanie, would you please introduce the other members of your committee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. To my left is Jen Pratt, Vice Chair, Colleen Zanuski, Katie Sullivan, and Kelly Nemi, Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you. And up here on my left, we have Mr. Mark Townsend, the Chair of the Select Board. And Mr. Townsend, would you please introduce the other members of your board?
Good evening, everybody. To my left, we have Sarah Hewins, the Vice Chair, Jen Bogart, Jim Hoffman, and John Cotter.
Thank you, sir. And directly in front of me here, we have Mr. Germain, the Chairman of our Finance Committee. And Mr. Germain, would you please introduce the members of your committee?
Good evening, everybody. To my right, your left, is Elizabeth Selger, who's our Vice Chairman. She's also Chairman of Capital Outlay. We have Bill Cullum, Tony Macrina, Walter Cole, Pat Maha, and last but not least, down on the end, in case she's overlooked, is Maurice Wigman, who is also serving on the Capital Outlay Committee. And I am your chairman. Oops, sorry. It said Mr. Fluffy on the backside of that. Not exactly sure that will work, but hey, we gave it a shot.
Thank you, Mr. Germain.
You're welcome.
Also, up here over on my left, we have Mr. Fennessy, our town administrator. And directly to my left, Mr. Greg Corbo, our town council. Over here on my right, our town clerk, Ms. Cara Dayhill. And Ms. Sue Moquin, our finance director. And directly to my right, we have Ms. Laura Patine, who is running our voting system tonight. All these folks, as well as those who serve on all of our committees and boards, have worked so hard to make tonight's meeting happen. And all of you folks up here now can take a deep breath and realize that it is now out of your hands, and it is in the hands of the wonderful people before us today to vote on and consider the things that we've put forth before them. Could we have a round of applause for all these people up front? Awesome. Before we get started, I want to thank the people of Carver for their continued support in allowing me to serve as your moderator. Serving this town has been an honor. I can't say enough how fulfilling it has been to even do my small part, which is a very small part. I come up here and stand before you guys for hopefully one night a year, but it's probably going to be more than that, to be honest with you, and it was last year. But it is a small part compared to what everybody else does. But it is truly an honor for me to be part of that. If you feel compelled to get involved, as I did, there's many ways that you can serve and be appointed to one of the many openings we have on town boards and committees. Please visit the town website at carverma.org. There's a button you can click on the left-hand side where it says Committee and Board Volunteering, and you can go and check out what openings are available. You can also contact the town clerk, Ms. Dayhill, and ask her what openings might be available. There's always opportunities, there's always openings, and really just a great way to give back to your community.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir?
I want to thank you. This is your fifth?
What's
town
that?
Meeting?
Now you're putting me on the spot, but this would be my fourth or fifth. Yeah, I think so.
I think it's your fifth.
Fifth, I think,
So
yeah.
I want to thank him for the job he's done. It's a difficult job to stand up here and moderate town meetings. So, Mr. Sean Clancy.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Appreciate that. With that said, I'd like to kindly ask you, now that you guys have all clapped for me, now you can start booing for me because I'm going to give you the rules. But with that said, I'd kindly like to ask you to use tonight's meeting as an opportunity to listen intently to various proposals brought forth by boards and committees who have spent tireless hours preparing tonight's business for your consideration. Please be respectful of the points of view of your elected officials, town employees, volunteer committee members, and of course your neighbors seating in the room. I'm convinced that everyone in the room is concerned for this town's best interest. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here taking time out of our busy schedules, right? and equally deserve your respect and attention. Keep in mind that there are guidelines and rules we follow, which are detailed by the bylaws, town meeting time, and Robert's Rules of Order, which... Yes, sir.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Our bylaws make no mention of town meeting time. It only mentions Robert's Rules of Order. Therefore, you can only use Robert's Rules of Order. That's in our bylaw. And under Chapter 39, Section 15, Paragraph 2, only the town body can create bylaws that regulate town meeting.
Okay, I'll take that under advisement.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator, it's not under advisement, it's our bylaws. You have to follow them.
Yes, my opinion is that I am following the
Hey,
bylaws.
all right, tyrant.
Okay.
It's completely inappropriate, Mr. Moderator, but not unusual.
Okay, no, we're not going to shout and call out, okay? So please allow me to get through my little spiel here. It's really important that we talk through the moderator, folks. So we won't talk directly to each other. We won't shout out. We're going to talk about that a little bit here. So, at no point will the many inappropriate behaviors that we all see exhibited on social media be tolerated in this room. So there we go. While we may sometimes think we know precisely what the motives of other individuals are, we should not draw conclusions based on hearsay and limited evidence. Keep in mind that this is not a court of law, and you do not have the right to cross-examine someone or provide rebuttal to every point made. Therefore, at no point should anyone attack the personal motives of someone else in the room, make disparaging remarks, or attempt to label another member of town meeting a liar or a fraud. Those who wish to do so will risk being abruptly cut off and asked to apologize and rephrase their statement or otherwise yield the floor. For example, if you believe a statement made by someone else to not be factual, the proper etiquette is to say something along the lines of, I believe there is significant evidence that the member is mistaken. Of course, stating the supporting evidence may add to your credibility. Everyone in the room is capable of forming their own opinion based on information presented. With that said, let's take a moment to greet each other and set the meeting off to a good start.
Hello. Hello.
I feel like we're having deja vu a little bit.
It's like in church.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. So on the way in, each of you had the opportunity to grab a packet of information, which includes the warrant and appendix with additional information pertaining to the articles on the warrant and some information about town meeting procedure. Also, you had the opportunity to grab a copy of the 2022 annual report. The warrant lists each article that we'll be voting on tonight. Underneath the name of each article is a description of what is being voted on, followed by an informational summary explaining the article and perhaps some of the motivation behind it. After the informational summary is a proposed motion, please note that before any business can be discussed, a motion must be made and seconded. So the proposed motion is there to help us get the ball rolling. Following the proposed motion is an indication of the vote count required for a motion to pass. Lastly, there's a listing provided showing how the Board of Selectmen and any committees sponsoring the article voted in recommendation of the article. I will introduce each article by reading its caption and ask for a motion and second before providing an opportunity for the sponsor or sponsors of the article to provide a brief presentation on the article. If you are presenting or you feel you may be answering questions on an article, I kindly ask that you please sit near the front. Only motions and amendments which are directly relative to the article at hand will be in order. Any motion or amendment which is fundamentally different from the open article may be deemed out of order and at the moderator's discretion. As many of you know, we are required per town bylaw to publish the warrant 7 days prior to town meeting for the purpose of allowing residents to decide whether they have interest in debating and voting on the business laid forth. Limiting debate and actions to the business on the warrant is meant to protect the rights of those who have or may have chosen not to be here tonight based on the contents of the warrant. Once a motion has been made and seconded, and only after a motion has been made and seconded, we will begin presentations and then debate. Any voter is welcome to speak in debate. Simply approach one of the microphones in the aisles. There's 3 of them up in front of us here. Simply approach one of the microphones in the aisles. We'll wait to be recognized by the moderator. State your name and address, and then make your statement. Due to the circumstances, I please ask that only one person stand behind a microphone at any one time. Once the person is seated, another may approach. I will attempt to recognize people in the order they have approached the microphone, and each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes per microphone appearance and 2 opportunities to speak on each motion. I will not recognize someone for a second opportunity to speak in debate until everyone that wishes to speak a first time has had an opportunity to do so. So keep that in mind, and as you're thinking about what you want to say for your second time up, take an opportunity to listen to everybody else who is getting up before you. Legitimate questions which are not statements posed as questions will be considered exceptions. I will try my best to be flexible, that if you reach your time limit, but it seems to only have you seem to only have 1 or 2 sentences left, I'll let you finish. However, if you don't seem to be wrapping up, I'll kindly ask you to do so. All debate is to be conducted through the moderator. You should not speak directly to or with other members of town meeting. So we've already seen an example of what not to do there. And I want to make sure that that is definitely followed this evening, and we will call you out on it. Those town officials and committee members who are seated in front of you will observe the same rules as those seated before them when speaking in debate, including utilizing the microphones in the aisle if they are able. Those seated at the table should also refrain from speaking or answering questions unless recognized. In the interest of time, when speaking in debate, please be sure to state points of view and information not previously provided or questions not previously asked. When the motion is put to vote, that will be your opportunity to show your support for or against the motion. Please refrain from applauding or booing. If at any time you feel that I have made a procedural error, the proper course of action is to rise to a point of order. Simply rise and state point of order. You should try not to interrupt someone while they are speaking in debate unless allowing them to continue would, in your estimation, cause a furthering of procedural error. Otherwise, respectfully, wait for them to finish before making your point. I will then recognize you, allow you to state your point of order, and then I will rule on it. A point of order is procedural in nature. It should not be used because you disagree with someone or because you feel that their information may be non-factual. You will have your chance to speak, and you should wait to do so. After debate has been exhausted, I will put the question to a vote. Alternatively, any member of town meeting may make a motion to move the previous question, which, after being seconded and approved by a 2/3 vote, will end debate and put the question to vote. I will not recognize such a motion unless debate has become repetitive and no new information is being presented. Articles will be taken up in the order they are listed in the warrant unless a motion to advance an article or postpone an article has been made, seconded, and approved by a 2/3 vote. I will not entertain any such motion without sound reason. The Select Board has taken great pains to prepare the warrant and have taken into consideration all feedback provided up until this point. If we have already opened an article for debate, we cannot take up another article until it can be laid on the table, which can happen only after a motion to do so has been made, seconded, and approved by a 2/3 vote. During the course of the proceedings, we may have a few individuals who are not Carver voters who are required by their official duties to speak on an article, including, but not limited to, town council, the town administrator, and other employees. I also understand that we have the superintendent from the South Shore Colony Regional Technical School District. So unless I hear any objections now, I'll let these individuals speak when recognized. Excellent. As has become the custom in the past, and in the interest of time, if there are no objections now, I will waive the reading of the warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. It's been made and seconded, but we don't really need a vote on that. We usually just deal with objections. So, good. Seeing no objections, I'll waive the reading of the warrant. Yep, so we're going to move to a test of the, wow, you were like right ahead of me. I love it. Right in sync. So yeah, we're going to move it to a test of the voting system. So I just want to reiterate, the clickers, right? Just make sure that you do hand them in before you leave for the night, and also make sure that you put them in the basket if you leave the room for any reason. So with that said, what we're going to do is we are going to put a sample question up here. What's that? Excellent. And we're going to ask you to vote yes or no on it. On the first few votes, we'll go ahead and give everybody 30 seconds or so to vote, so that you have an opportunity to learn how to use the clickers and get comfortable with them. As we develop a rhythm, I'm going to reserve the right to scale that back a little bit so that we can kind of keep things moving along. So we might move back to like 15, 20 seconds or so. Okay, so we will give everyone, get my stopwatch going here. We'll give you 30 seconds from now to go ahead and vote on this one here.
What's the question?
I don't know that we have a question on this one this year. Do we have a question, or is it just?
What number?
So last year we said, are the Red Sox going to win it this year? So if you think they are, then vote yes. If you think they aren't, then vote no. Now keep in mind that you can change your vote until we close the vote. So within that 30 seconds or 15 seconds, if you feel like you've pressed the wrong button or you've changed your mind, you can certainly do that until we close it.
Yeah?
All right, and we'll go ahead and close the vote. All right, and that motion carries with a vote of 215 yes and 113 no. And those of you that voted no, I want to really question your motives, or your loyalty anyways. Excellent. So unless there's any difficulties or questions, I think we'll call that a successful test here. All right. So we will go ahead and get started then. On Article 1, do we have a motion?
I move that the town approve the 2022 annual report.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 1, the annual town report. This does require a majority vote. The select board voted 5-0 in favor of this article. Do we have a presentation on this? Nope, nothing? Okay, so we'll go ahead and open it for debate. Seeing no hands and no motion to the mic, we'll go ahead and put this up for a vote. So again, this requires a majority vote. So we will go ahead and open the voting now and give you 30 seconds to vote. All right, we'll go ahead and close the vote. Okay. With a vote of 293 to 25, the motion carries. Article 2. Do I have a motion on Article 2?
I move that the town approve Article 2 in the amounts and for the purposes as set forth in the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Do we have a presentation on this? All right. No presentation. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open it for debate. Okay, seeing no hands and no motion to the mic, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. And we'll go ahead and open the voting and give you 30 seconds. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the vote. Okay, and with a vote of 275 to 34, the motion carries. On Article 3.
Move Article 3 as written in the warrant.
Second.
So Article 3, fiscal year 2024 operating budgets for town and enterprise funds. Motion has been made and seconded. We have a presentation from the town administrator.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah.
Since this year you decided that no one except the town administrator can do a PowerPoint presentation, where he's not even a registered voter of this town, okay, we shouldn't use any PowerPoints. The government should have not more rights than us legislative body members here. The government should not have more rights than the legislative body, meaning all of you people. So he should not. So I make a motion, no PowerPoint presentations at all, if you're not going to allow other people to do PowerPoint presentations.
Okay. Yep, I've heard your point, and I'm going to allow it. The town administrator is, as part of his duty, required to make clear the budget and the expenditures for the upcoming year. And so we are allowing this, but you're correct, we are not allowing other PowerPoint presentations. I think that this makes it fairly content neutral. It's just, just for the purposes of showing the budget numbers, so.
So,
Allow
Mr.
it.
Moderator, I just want to make it clear here, okay? Didn't the moderator have an opportunity to print out enough copies so we could actually see them, like the planning board did? He could have done that, correct?
I'm not at liberty to say whether or not
Through
you
you
could have done
to
it.
the
Yeah.
town administrator, could he have printed out copies to provide everyone instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation?
I don't know if he was able to do that. I'm sorry. So I've already ruled, and this
This
matter
is why we
closed.
have a tyrant up there.
Yep.
Robert Belvin, 26 Gate Street. You're welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Robin Fennessy, the Town Administrator. Happy to be here to talk to you, and I want to thank... Oh, yeah, is it on? I want to thank you all for attending this town meeting. For those that are new to town meeting, I'm sure you're going to find it interesting at times, to say the least, but it'll be lively and hopefully considerate, too. In the interest of time, I'm going to go through a little slide presentation. There's only, I think, 9 slides. And I want to, before I do that, I want to thank the town officials who worked on this budget with me, the Finance Committee, the Capital Plan Committee, the Select Board, and other committees who all took part in this. Also want to thank our town employees, the school employees, the town employees, the department heads who all worked on this budget to get us to where we are today. You'll see that the budget is balanced, which is always a good thing. And I'll go through the steps and how we got there. So the Finance Committee members have dedicated many hours and many meetings, tremendous amount of time working on this budget with me and with Sue Moquin, our Finance Director. And all our department heads had known that it was a level service budget, meaning that we'll keep the same services going for this next fiscal year as we did in the past fiscal year. So the recommendations that will be put forth to you tonight, they are truly a collective effort by many, many people in the town. So thank you. So first, I'm going to go through, I'll start with a brief overview of the budget. Well, the total budget for FY24 is $46,163,259, and that's up about 5.2% over last year's budget, which was $43,876,506. How do we get there? So the first thing you do is look at the revenue that comes in for the town. You have Proposition 2.5, the limiting proposition that allows up to 2.5% taxation from the previous year. So that amount added to the current amount brings it to 30 million. I always want to say thousand. I wish $30,342,675 in taxation. In new growth, it's estimated at $350,000, and that's kind of low for a town. Not a lot of growth going on in the town right now. So that's a very moderate number. Most towns like to see that higher to either take the burden of taxes off other taxpayers or to get services that residents want in the town. Well, the total tax levy is the combination of those two. It's $30,692,675. So that's the first part of the revenue that puts this budget together. Second part is the monies that come in from other sources. So state aid, that's monies that come in from the Commonwealth to fund certain programs and also some other funds. There's $12,489,064 of state aid this year, and it's only up 0.04% over the prior year. The local receipts, meaning it could be meals tax, could be any other taxes that are out there. It could be from ambulance receipts and cemetery fees and other revenue that comes in. So that is $2,981,520. That's only up 0.02% over last year. So total receipts that come in is $15,470,584. Okay, so those are the first parts of what a revenue is. And you'll see the total of all of that together is what makes up our budget availability. So the total of all revenue is $46,163,259, and you'll see that number repeated throughout this. And it just has on the bottom, out of the local receipts, it also includes ambulance and cemetery fees and other indirect revenue. Okay, so that's the money that's available for the town to have a level services budget. And remember, level services doesn't mean level costs, because obviously costs go up. Costs go up in insurance, costs go up in utilities, like we're all seeing. So there'll be an increase in those costs that we have to still hold within a level service budget. So the budgetary expenditure, this is what we spend this money on. So the first is the school department. Their proposed appropriation, meaning what the town is proposing to give to the schools, is $22,500,218. And that's an increase of about 0.05% over last year. The second is a town appropriation. What does the town get to run the police, fire, EMS, council on aging, library, all the departments? That amount is $10,686,935. And that's an increase of less than 0.05%. And then the shared appropriation, proposed appropriation, comes into the insurances for the buildings, for the health insurance, for other things that are townwide, some townwide IT and other things. So the shared appropriation that is utilized by the town itself for both the schools and the town government is $12,976,106. That has an increase, and there's been an increase in retirement health, care insurance, increase in Old Colony High School assessment. The assessment is based on how many students that we have go to Old Colony. So to get a look at that, I always like a pie chart. Not because I like pie, but I like a pie chart. So if you look on this one, on the right, it has all the different departments, the general departments that utilize the budget for their departments. The first, which is the big orange one, is the education costs. The education cost is $23,855,241. That's 52% of the budget that we have available. It goes to educate your children. The health insurance cost is the second biggest cost to the town. The health insurance cost is $5,115,116, and that comes out to 11% of the total budget of the town. The next is public safety. Public safety is police, fire, EMS, emergency management. Public safety is $4,143,306, which is 9% of your tax dollars and the revenue dollars. General government, which is a bunch of other things, including my office and the running of the town hall and other sources that are needed, could be other departments that are not identified here. That is $2,981,975, 6% of the budget. The Plymouth County retirement, we have to pay into the retirement program. Our dues, what the town is owed for our retirees, and that is $2,938,961, and that's 6% also of the budget. And the debt that we have is $2,772,200, another 6%. And as we go down, it gets less and less. Your operations and maintenance, that's your street work, your repair of buildings and repair of other things that the town needs done. Snow removal, anything that does with operation maintenance of the whole town, custodians, all of it. So that is $1,927,190, and that's 4% of the whole budget. And the other shared services, that's when we saw the shared services that we have with the schools and the towns. That is $1,279,806, which is 3%. And human services, that includes veteran services, council on aging, and some other areas. That's a small amount of $692,886. It's 2% of your budget. And then culture and recreation. It's a mere 1% of the budget at $506,587. So that's the expenditures that we're proposing for the town to take care of all these areas of town that have a budget. So the process that we get there, how do we get to what these budgets will be? Well, we look at utilities. Utilities increased dramatically this year, dramatically. Put us in a hole for a little while. We got out of that hole. We were concerned going into next year, and then they started to come down and moderate a little bit. But it's still an increase. So we had to budget an increase going into fiscal '24. The legal services were increased to reflect past trends of litigation. We seem to have a number of litigation and cases going on. So we have to have legal fees to pay for that litigation. So that's increased. We increased the conservation department. 49% of the town is cranberry bogs. And there's a lot of wetlands and other things that need protection. So we reflected the duties of the agent, who was a part-time agent, moving them up to 26 to 27 hours per week from 19 hours. And the goal going forward is to get it to a full-time position like most every other city and town. The police is an increase that reflects a new officer that's currently in training, and hopefully he'll be out soon, I think in June. And also additional funds for the trends in overtime costs. Overtime costs are dramatic. There's a lot of officers who've been on for a long time, so they have a lot of vacation time. And those shifts, because we have a small force, have to be covered by somebody. And generally, it's out of overtime. And then the emergency management department used to be paid for from a grant, from the Entergy grant in Plymouth. So now it is no longer, because they shut it down. But we still need to maintain the emergency management department, and that now is borne by the town costs and not by any grant. So that's how one part of how we get here. The other part is we looked at other areas in town that may have needed increases or some modification. One was veteran services. Veteran services had been woefully underfunded for years. We're moving in the direction where there's more and more veterans coming out with needs. We're moving in a direction to have more services available to them. And one of that is by adding a 19-hour part-time position who will be working in the Veteran Services Department to be a assistant to help process the claims, to meet with the initial meeting with veterans to set up their needs and get their help that they need. So that's a cost. Library expenses were increased to meet state requirements for certification, to continue certification in our library. Health insurance, always a big one. We're fortunate this year that the increased premium, and when we first put this budget together, we were looking at somewhere between an 8 and 9% increase. And it over time, and that's when we talked about having a major deficit that we would have to close. Over time, it was brought down. We had a good claim history, and it brought it down to 3.5% for the year, which is probably the lowest we've had in many years. Plymouth County retirement, the more that retire, the more people, and the more that we have out there retiring, there's a cost to that. So the town pays a portion of that, and that portion went up 12% going into the next fiscal year, which is a dramatic increase in that. So, and then Old Colony. I don't want to pick on Old Colony because the superintendent is here, but the cost went up 13%. And again, that's based on the assessment of the number of students that we send there, as well as the costs. Just like any other department and any other entity, the costs rise for their needs. for teachers and for building maintenance and other things. And we'll talk about there's an article on tonight about looking at a feasibility study for them. So all that brings together what we played into setting this budget. So one of the parts that we look at all the time is free cash. Everybody says, oh, free cash, free cash. We got free cash. We can do whatever we want with it. And in a way, that's true, but it's not free cash. It comes from taxation the year before, or receipts from the year before, revenue from the year before, that doesn't get used. And then it goes back into the next year as free cash. So it's already appropriated money that came out of taxation or some other way that now is available to use this year. So we looked at how to use it best. And one of the things we did was look at continuing to keep the stabilization healthy by putting another additional $138,000 into that. It kind of goes with the guidelines, the financial guidelines of the town of keeping it at a certain level. And that helps our bond rating too, by having the free cash, the stabilization account funded well. The second is to compensate compensated absence fund. And that's when somebody has sick time or vacation time or other, they're retiring and there's a buyout of certain amounts of money, and that comes out of that fund. So we keep that funded. We're putting in $25,000 additional to that fund. Also OPEB, you might have heard the word OPEB. It's other post-employment benefits. It comes out of in terms of retirement and other things that the town gets charged for. So we're putting, did I say on compensated absence fund, I think I said 25,000. So it's 225,000 going into the OPEB fund. And it's been a practice of the town for several years to keep funding that. So the liability will be less as we go along. Oops. And the last was the capital outlay plan of free cash. And that's the capital outlay is we're proposing to put $997,996 into capital outlay to help with the improvements needed and to purchase certain capital equipment. So the stabilization OPEB funds, when you look at the balances, so stabilization came in this year with $3,566,791. We're adding $138,000 to it, brings it to $3,704,791. And the OPEB balance is coming into this year is $2,720,685, and we're adding the $225,000 to it, and it brings it to $2,945,685. So we're going to look at what the revenue costs and the summary is. So the revenue, as I said earlier tonight, is $46,163,259. The general appropriations, as I talked about earlier, the town side is $10,252,822. The school side is $21,418,428. And the shared cost side is $12,205,256. So all that put together comes out to a balanced operating budget of that same number, $46,163,259. So that is your budget going forward for fiscal year '24, which will carry from July 1 all the way to June 30th of next year. So thank you for your attention. I hope you got something out of this.
Thank you, Mr. Fennessy. And so that being said, Article 3, fiscal year 2024 operating budgets for town and enterprise funds. We'll go ahead and open that for debate. Yeah, Mr. Belbin?
Robert Belvin, 26 Gate Street. Does this include the FinCom money that they're looking for their stipend?
Mr. Fennessy?
Yes, it does.
Because we haven't voted on that yet. That really shouldn't be in.
Let me double check on that.
Point of order. Mr. Belbin should be well aware of this. The Governance Committee in 2016 voted in a stipend for the Finance Committee, and that has been in place from 2016 to date. It is in Schedule C of the budget under the title of stipends.
Mr. J.
Never
Germain,
vote on it every year, Bob.
Mr. Germain, whether or not Mr. Belbin is aware of that is irrelevant. And clarifying a statement is not a point of order. So you will have to request the floor before you do that. So were you preparing a response, Mr. Fennessy?
Yes, so the $300 for the chair is in there.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, the bylaw that's in here, in the warrant, all right, for the Finance Committee actually includes a stipend for not only the chairman, but also the members, too. I'm just going on what's in here.
Mr. Moderator.
Hold on one sec. Let's give Mr. Fennessy an opportunity to respond unless he wants to defer to you.
It's Article 13. It's on page 13. .3.6, it said, may receive a stipend in an amount determined by the vote at town meeting. So if we haven't approved this, 13, we shouldn't be approving it yet.
Point of order.
Where's that coming from? Mr. Germain, point of order.
It's a proposed bylaw change. It's not the current bylaw.
Okay, so again, Mr. Germain, the point of order is used for procedural error.
I'm trying to tell you what the procedural error is, Mr. Moderator. We're jumping way ahead on a proposed bylaw change that has not yet come to the floor. It has not yet been voted on. The current bylaw actually says that the FinCom shall serve without pay. That was overruled and voted on by the body, this body, in 2016, and for some reason never got typewritten into the bylaws. I have furnished documentation from the Governance Committee to that fact. This is a current bylaw change to clarify some errors that are in it. This has not come before the board yet. This has not come before this body yet. This has not been voted on yet. So therefore, it doesn't exist yet. That is my point of order.
Okay. I think town council can add some color to this.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Moderator. So if you look at Appendix A in your warrant book, which is just a few pages before the end, you'll see that the salaries of elected and appointed officials are established, and those include Finance Committee Chair, $300, and Finance Committee members, $150. later, under Article 13 of this warrant, you're going to be asked to vote to amend the Finance Committee bylaw, which presently only authorizes a stipend for the chair of the Finance Committee, to make it so that all members of the Finance Committee can receive a stipend. It is my understanding that the budget includes stipends for all of the current members of the Finance Committee. However, if Article 13 fails and you do not authorize the payment of a stipend, then that stipend will not be paid, and that money will not be spent. So it's in the budget as in anticipation of a passing vote under Article 13, but this by no means obligates you to pay Finance Committee members a stipend should Article 13 not be approved.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Corbo.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, so this is not technically a balanced budget. It's actually off because there's money that's available to use for other things that hasn't been voted on yet. I think it should be put out there to people and say, guess what, it's really not a balanced budget because it depends on what you guys vote on today. They need to know what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Belbin. In the front, yeah.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Gail DeTomaso. I reside at 2C Meadowbrook Way in Carver since January. I wish to address the budget proposal for the Council on Aging. I have enjoyed some of the programming for the last few months. Coming from a neighboring town with an active COA, I noticed striking differences. In Carver, the director is also the only one answering the phones, creating the newsletter, writing grants and reports, organizing the activities, doing payroll, greeting walk-ins and prospective new members, inputting all computer data. Who is responsible when the director cannot be there due to training, illness, vacation time? 10 to 15 years ago, the Carver COA had 3 full-time staff, a director, an administrator, and an activities director. The retiring baby boomers have increased the number of seniors looking for stimulating activities. Many, like myself, live in the general community and not retirement residences that have their own activities. Presently, there are as many people over 60 as there are school-age children in Carver. I respectfully request that the town add 2 part-time staff for the Carver COA, a part-time activities coordinator and a part-time administrator, perhaps able to swap jobs. Hopefully, this would allow the building to remain open until 4 p.m. seniors Monday through Friday, instead of closing at 3 p.m. on Monday through Thursday and noon on Fridays. I also implore the town to budget a feasibility study for a new COA building. Since the average is 10 years from the start of the study to completion of the building, I respectfully urge the town to start now so that I and my fellow seniors can enjoy a modern COA before we are no longer among the living. Also, the current 200-year-old building needs a little extra maintenance. Some windows are depressingly dirty, and a mildew odor is periodically present in some areas. The emergency exit in front of the building might do more harm to seniors if they trip on the wood sticking up. I'm talking TLC, not major reconstruction. Volunteers have contributed much time and effort, but we could use a little more help from the town. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Moderator?
Mr. Jermaine, yeah.
On behalf of FinCom, this is the last thing I wanted to bring up, but I happen to see this as Mr. Belbin brought up the elected and appointed officials. There's a couple things wrong with this block. First of all, the town clerk does not belong in this position at all. She's an employee, elected an employee, but she has her own line item. She doesn't belong in this block at all in Schedule Appendix A. Second thing is the planning board members, it says including the alternate. The chairman, Mr. Shea, and the planner came to FinCom, and we endorsed a $200 increase in their stipend, and rightly so. So we went from $1,000 for the chair to $1,200, and we went from $800 to the planning board member to $1,000. And it was brought to my attention, originally that bylaw said that it was only the elected members of the planning board got that stipend, and I was very surprised. I didn't really even give that a second thought. But there's an alternate member on the planning board. And while he does take in most, if not all, of the site visits and so forth and so on, he received no stipend. So it was the chairman of the planning board suggested and recommended, and the FinCom approved, that the alternate get a $200 stipend, which was at least something to offset, to get him started. I see on Appendix A, it says planning board members, including alternate, for $1,000. That was not the wish of the planning board, that was not the wish of the town planner, and that was certainly not the vote of the finance committee. So, through you, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to see the finance director or the town administrator adjust this budget by that $800 and remove that. It's certainly up to this body. If you want to make a motion to give the alternate member that $1,000, you're welcome to do that. But that was not what the FinCom recommended. And under no circumstances, and never has it before, been the town clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Jermaine. Seeing no hands and no motion to the mics. On Article 3, fiscal year 2024 operating budgets for town and enterprise funds, this motion does require a majority vote. The recommendation by the select board was 3-0, finance committee 6-0, school.
The exception.
With the exception, thank you, Mr. Jermaine. School committee 5-0, and Part B, the select board was 3-0, and finance committee was 6-0. So at this point, we will go ahead and...
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator. I'm sorry, I have to ask the question. So am I to assume that we're going to go right to a vote of this budget, and in fact, you're going to support this $1,000 for the alternate? Is that what everybody wants to do? I just want to make sure that that's clear, because he's going right to a vote. It's going to approve this budget. This budget includes a $1,000 stipend for an alternate member of the planning board. Is that the will of the body? That's my question.
I can't comment on the will of the board, so I can only entertain.
I guess we need an answer from the board.
Yep. Mr. Fennessy, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, so that was an oversight. I think if you want to make an amendment to that, to reduce it from 1,000 to 200, and if that passes, then that's what it would be.
I have no problem supporting the full $1,000, just so you're well aware. I'm not sure that my committee feels any different. But that was just, I just want clarification. That was not what was originally approved by FinCom. And
Thank you,
we're
Mr.
all
Jermaine.
about transparency.
Thank you.
That's right.
Ellen,
Is that?
it's in the budget the way it was voted. The appendix has not been updated. So what's in the budget is the 200 for the alternate and the additional 200 increase that you guys voted. So your budget line items are correct, but that appendix that's attached, it does not have the updated numbers.
So if we add this appendix up, it doesn't equal the budget, is it?
Correct.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But it says including the alternate. So what's going to happen is Laura, God bless her soul, is going to look at this at the end or the beginning of May and say, we're going to give the alternate member $1,000 because this says including the alternate.
Correct.
We need to correct that now.
Right.
Or this body should vote to give that member, and I have no problem with it either way. The guy makes the same number of site visits everybody else does. So I don't have an issue with it. I was actually shocked that he didn't get a stipend. So I have no issue with it either direction, but we need clarification from this body on this item. This is how these bylaws get screwed up. Sorry.
That's okay, I didn't do the appendix.
Not your fault.
I'll tell you right.
Okay, so I think we're clear on what the error is. I cannot correct it, so
I guess we need a motion. Fine, I'll make it. I make a motion that we approve the $1,000 stipend for the alternate member going forward. There we go. How about that?
he's, so you have to make an amendment, so.
I'll make an amendment to Schedule A that we approve the $1,000 stipend for the alternate member on the planning board.
So a motion's been made and seconded to amend Schedule A. Mr. Jermaine, I need it in writing, please.
I do it on a
Okay,
napkin.
what you write it on, you can write it on whatever you'd like.
We reducing free cash by?
It's already in, because it's here. So it has to be in the calculation.
Said the budget's correct.
It has to balance. It can't be in here if it doesn't balance. I'm going to go on the assumption that it does balance.
The budget balance is based on what you guys voted. The appendix is saying something different. So you just have to change the appendix, not the budget.
Free cash by the 800.
I'm going to withdraw the amendment. So this number doesn't, never mind. I have to withdraw the amendment. It doesn't balance the budget, and we can't appropriate funds. This is a pay-go
Mr.
system.
Moderator?
We gotta take
Mr.
money
Moderator,
from
through you?
somewhere else.
Yeah, Mr. Corbo.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Moderator, through you to the Finance Director, do I understand correctly that the budget includes a $200 stipend for the alternate?
That's correct.
But Schedule A reflects a $1,000 stipend for the alternate, correct?
That's correct.
So through you, Mr. Moderator, to Mr. Germain, might I suggest a motion to amend to delete the words "including alternate" from planning board members in Schedule A, and to add a new line, planning board members alternate $200.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and
Write
seconded.
that down too.
I believe Mr. Corbo's writing it down, and I can then share it with you and have you approve it.
Really. Get to write.
Order, Mr. Moderator. Town council's
Mr. Belvin.
town council. He's not a legislative body member. He's writing a governmental entity for the town that doesn't belong. One of us has to write that.
I moved it.
So,
Right.
so as I said, I'm going to share
council,
that with Mr.
everybody-
Germain, and I'm going to ask him if that is what he wants to put
Town
forward.
council should not be writing it. It would be like me asking town council, can you write an amendment for me? Will you do that? Because I'm going to be asking that later on. Are you going to allow that, Mr. Moderator?
There have been several occasions in the past where town council has commented on an amendment, and the amendment has been revised based on his feedback.
His feedback, but he doesn't write it. What I'm saying is, we're the legislative body. We're the town people here. If a town legislative body member says, I want to amend this, you have to write it. You always tell me, I need it in writing, and I have to write it down. Now he's saying town councils can write the amendment. That's not appropriate for a town council to be doing this, Mr. Moderator. It should be us here.
I'm writing it. Give me one moment, please.
Thank you. Happy now?
All right. Thank you.
Some things never change.
Alternate. Add. Alternate, $100.
Write that.
Moderator.
$100.
Point of order. Now he just gave it to her for her to write everything down. What's going on here?
I wrote it, my handwriting.
There you go.
Mr. Germain, you go. Since you made the motion.
God almighty. Really?
Read it out loud.
Really?
I would, okay, so, all right, enough with the no,
Mr.
no,
Moderator.
you have not been recognized. Hold on.
Thank you.
So we've we've discussed the point of order, okay? And Mr. Germain is welcome to either use what's been provided or to write it in his own words, okay?
Thank you. And I think I said so moved.
Yep,
I believe it was seconded. So therefore, this is all semantics.
yep.
Would you hand that to the moderator, please, Stephanie?
Wait, so is this the one that Mr. Germain
Yes.
is putting forth?
Pick your pick.
No,
Simply
no, it has to be up
clarifies
to you,
language.
Mr. Germain.
Good God.
So Appendix A, remove including alternate, add alternate, $200. Is
Correct.
that enough detail? I think what we would prefer is to have the exact language that is being struck and the exact language that is being added.
Point of order. There is no exact language. We're going to take the planning board members, remove the words in parenthesis that says include alternate.
Okay, can you write that
number's
down,
gonna be $1,000.
Mr. Germain?
Moderator.
Listen, it's going to take a lot longer if you don't just write it down. So just write down
Slow it
exactly
down.
what it is that you're looking to do.
Thank God it isn't over 10,000. We'd be here for a week.
Alternate. Master, alternate.
Yeah, hot off the presses.
We got like 5 of them now.
Mr. God.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a motion to amend Schedule A in the appendix to remove, in parentheses, include alternate, and add a line that says alternate planning board member, $200. So the motion is being made by Mr. Germain?
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. We'll go ahead and open that up for debate.
Thank
All right, we have someone who needs a microphone here in the middle, please.
Don Williams, 6'8". I am the alternate. I've never worked so hard for $200. I'd almost be ready to say zero. Don't pay me. It's not worth it.
What did he say?
Okay. All right, thank you. Settle down.
Sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate your sentiment, sir. Keep in mind that we do not want applauding or booing, for that matter, but in this case, applauding. So we do appreciate your comments, sir. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. We've opened it for debate. I'm not seeing any other hands or any motion to the mic, so we need to queue up this amendment. Oh, I didn't give it to you. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, on the amendment to remove alternate, the word alternate from the parentheses from the planning board members line on Appendix A, and add an additional line saying alternate planning board member $200. We'll go ahead and open the vote, and I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the vote. Okay, on the amendment, it passes with a vote of 287 to 34. So with that said, we'll go back to the main motion on Article 3. The fiscal year 2024 operating budgets for town and enterprise funds. So seeing no further motion to the mic, so no hands raised, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. Again, it requires a majority vote, and we'll go ahead and open the vote now. Again, you'll have 30 seconds. Okay, go ahead and close the vote. And with 262 for and 44 against, Article 3 passes. Moving on to Article 4, North Carver Water District Debt Service.
I move that the town transfer the sum of $231,256 from the North Carver Water District Debt Stabilization Fund for the purpose of making annual debt service payments for the North Carver Water District.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Do we have any presentation from the sponsor?
Point of information
Yes, sir. Mr. Germain?
is that the Finance Committee was 0-0. In fact, the Finance Committee voted yes, 7-0, recommend.
Thank you. Yeah, so on the recommendation, Select Board voted 5-0, and I don't have a vote from the North Carver Water District. So with no presentation, we'll go ahead and open this for debate. Yes, sir, am I right?
Good evening, Mike Palomari, 164 Plymouth Street. I'm one of the three water commissioners for the North Carver Water District. Briefly, we did not have a vote because we didn't have all this information until, as a committee, till yesterday. And that's why we didn't take a vote at the meeting, because the other two gentlemen really weren't included up to that time in conversation about this article. So the commissioners did not take a vote, but we did in principle. We met last night. We support this article. I want to be clear, the way this article is, it's a one-time funding for this debt. The money was put aside in 2017 to an account that was found about 2 weeks ago by the finance director, I believe. And it's about enough to cover the debt service for this year. I think there is a little bit more. There's a sum of money left, but it wouldn't cover a second year. So this would be a one-time funding mechanism for the annual debt service to the North Carver Water District. Having met with the town administrator and the finance director, and having other conversations with FinCom and other people in town, that moving forward, we're going to be looking at the North Carver Water District and people in Town Hall, how to fund this debt service in the future, come up with some sort of formula, however that may be. But so I do support this this article as it is right now. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right, seeing no hands raised and no motion to the mic on Article 4, the North Carver Water District debt service, a 2/3 vote is required on this, and we'll go ahead and open the voting now, and we'll give you 30 seconds.
Okay. Bless you.
We'll go ahead and close the vote. No, that's all right. All right. With a vote of 278 for and 37 against, the motion passes for the Article 4. On Article 5, the capital improvements budget.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I move the proposed motion as written in the town warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 5, the capital improvements budget. I understand that either Mr. Fennessy, you or Mr. Corbo would like to explain sort of why there's 3 categories here and how that's going to work.
You'll see in the warrant that there's 3 categories. The first category and the first proposal would be to bond or borrow for the library roof, the town hall roof, the library painting, and then the engineering costs for the roofs. So with that, that frees up money that can be used for the capital outlay plan and keep the plan on its 10-year trajectory. If that fails, then it would go to Category 2 as a motion to take out the bonding and the borrowing for those 4 items, the library and town hall roof, and a cupola too, and the engineering costs and the painting. So if that would take that out and leave those for another year, even though there's some leaks and other things going on there. So if that fails, then the third motion would, and that is utilizing monies from old articles too, that had closed out, and there's some funding there that we're moving over to the capital outlay plan from the leftover monies from articles of the past. And the third one is even a lesser amount. It's just utilizing the free cash and some other monies that would reduce even further the items that could be replaced or repaired on a capital plan. So you'll see if you look at the warrant, under Category 1, you'll see all the items that would be taken care of. It starts at A and goes all the way down to second page, which is BB. And the cost, so the total cost of all that is $3,966,921. But again, that has borrowing of $1,685,000 in that. The second plan that I mentioned, without the borrowing, it takes out certain items, the repainting of the basketball courts, and then the passenger school bus, the electric vehicle school bus infrastructure, the school minivan bus, and then on the second page, the middle high school parking lot seal coating, Pond Street Fields Phase 1 project design, and then again, those 4 items that would be bonded. And the third motion would even reduce it further from that, so it would take out A, B, C, J, P, Q, R, and everything on the second page except for the elementary school curriculum update. So those are the choices, and that'll be, somebody will make that motion.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Fennessy. Before we open up for debate, I just want to make one statement here, which is that historically, the way we've voted on this article is we've read each of the items and asked people to hold individual items if they wanted to vote on them or discuss them separately, right? So the select board has put together something a little bit different here, where you can kind of choose your destiny here. You could choose one of the 3 different categories. If those categories don't really suit you and you would rather pull one item out to discuss it separately and vote on it separately, I will entertain a motion to divide the question. So if that's your aim, if you're saying like, okay, I like Category 1 except for one item, that would be the means by which to discuss that item separately so that the whole category doesn't go down, right? So just wanted to throw that out there. So we have some folks at the mic in the middle here. Yep.
Hi, Jennifer Pratt, 38 Miles Standish Drive. I just wanted to speak briefly on some clarification. I actually served on the Capital Outlay Committee and poured many hours over these numbers. We're requesting motion 1, which would bond certain items to get the library and the town hall functioning and looking the way that they should function and look as buildings in the center of our town. And to do that, if we bond those items, there is already money that has been voted by previous town meetings that could then be put back to fund this year's capital expenditures, giving all of our town departments key items of capital that they've requested and need. And so that is our preference. However, we understand that some people may not want the town to go into additional debt. So if you do not want to bond, then Category 2 would be the proposed capital. Some of the items that are marked as coming off It's not that they wouldn't happen. There's already been monies voted in previous town meetings to pay for those items. So rather than bonding and taking that money back to use for other things, such as a school bus or other things that we do need, we would wait on those and not enter into bonding. Category 3 is if all town meeting tonight decides there's a lot of old capital items that were voted in prior town meetings and there's money left over. You know, we approved $150,000 to purchase a truck and it only cost $130,000. So there's $20,000 that's sitting there. And we're asking for that money to be moved back in to be used for this year's capital. If all town meeting did not want to do that, then we only have enough funds to do category 3. But I don't know why we wouldn't want to use old money that is, like those articles are done, they're fully expended, and there's leftover cash. So just for clarification, option 1 is if all town meeting is willing to enter into a bond and take out a loan to fully take care of our library and town hall so that the center of our town has a good roof, it has good siding, we don't have rotting clapboards, and then we can purchase things. I mean, if you drive through the center of town, there's nothing on the side of town hall right now, like bare, which is good because it's getting fixed, but it's been that way for a while. Option 2 is if you do not want bonding, then that's what we can afford to spend to purchase new capital items that our town needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pratt. Yep, in the middle.
Hi, guys. I'm Beth Sulger. I'm the chairman of the Capital.
Please speak into the microphone.
Hi, I'm Beth Sulger. I'm the chairman of the Capital Outlay. I agree with everything Jen Pratt just came up and said. I just wanted to let you guys know that we had spent many, many hours looking at all these capital projects. We also met with all the department heads in the town. Just like Jen had said, we would like to support category 1, which would be bonding for these projects the town needs, as well as taking in all of those extra money that's out there that we haven't used yet. With that, there is I'm not sure if everyone remembers last year, but we had said we would bond for the HVAC at the library for $1.8 million. We haven't actually gone out to the bond on that yet. When we did that last year, we also reserved $960,000, of which we've probably spent about $260,000. So one of the items we'll be bringing in is the $700,000 from that. That's what's going to get us there to category 1. I understand if we don't want to bond the $1.6 million, if we want to be conservative. However, we still should bring in most of those articles, which would bring us to category 2. If we choose not to do any of those, then we'll have category 3 left, which is the bare minimum, which is, I believe, if you remember Article 2, when we looked at the budget, there was $997,000 that we just allocated from free cash, and that's exactly what we would be spending in Article number 3. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear for everyone. The Capital Outlay Committee does support category 1, and that is what we're hoping the vote will pass for tonight. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Silger. Yes, sir, on the right.
Pat Mahan, 9 Red Tail Lane, member of the Finance Committee. Just like to make a couple of statements in support of category 1. When you look at your needs, if we keep wanting to take care of our needs just with current money, you're never going to have enough money to do it. If you compare this to your own household, how many families can pay cash for a house, pay cash for 2 or 3 cars, and pay cash for anything else they need? Not many. But when you do it, and you do it strategically and within your means, then you can afford these things. And we've got the people on board with the finance director, the town administrator, who are looking at these things, and borrowing is doable and within our means. So I hope you support category 1.
Thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no, oh, sorry, on the left.
How you doing? My name's Patty Cooney. I'm at 5 Canterbury Path. Just wanted to say, like, if we have all this extra money, I know the school's like getting rid of people kind of right now, and we like need to add extra stuff, wouldn't it be better to keep teachers and different things like that? And if you have like, it's not good to go into debt with stuff, I would assume.
Yeah, my understanding is that we can't change the allocations of budget funds between school and the town, so those would be separate. Yeah, on the right. I think you were first. Yep.
Yes, I would like to encourage, my name's, Deb Giswaldo, 204 Main Street. I'd like to encourage everybody to vote all of these things in. When I look at the list, the library, it needs attention. The fire chief would not be looking for a new vehicle unless he needed one. The school department would not be looking for a new school bus if they didn't need one. These things speak to the character and the goal of our community. We have an obligation to make Carver a place that reaches up for the schools, the library, the general community. We need to meet our obligations, and as long as we do this in the means that we have, I agree with Mr. Maher, this is what we should do. I ask you please to step up and let's move forward for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. I got someone moving already over here on the left, and then I'll entertain you, Mr. Jermaine. Yep.
Yes, Dan Nedicchioni, 20 Old Main. Question on the library roof in comparison to last year. We proposed a budget of $1.9 million approximately for the work, and that was to include that work at the library. And if I heard correctly, there was $700,000 left over in that budget towards this year that would be used towards those funding category 1. With that being the case, I believe that, if I remember correctly, the roof was included originally, and so $700,000 to $850,000 is a $150,000 difference over a 1-year period. And I was wondering if there was any sort of explanation as to why there's a $150,000 difference in that budget.
Who, if anybody can speak to that?
Mr. Moderator.
Yep.
There were some change orders that were made once they got, and it's not for the roof, it's for the HVAC system that we voted for last year. So there were some change orders when they got in there and started doing the work and how they had to get into the attic to fix that work.
Mr. Moderator, could I follow up on that? Thank you. On that question, so this price here of the library roof, that $850,000 would include those $150,000 change orders towards the HVAC work and the reconstruction of that roof, which is the additional $150,000 over that $1.9 million that we talked about last year, and that's what we're looking at there?
Yep.
What was the question?
Oh, my question was, just to reiterate what you said, so this library roof cost, it says roof on here, but you're saying that there's $150,000 in, because of that upgrade to the HVAC and everything. And so this would be inclusive of the change orders on top of the original contract that we had voted for last year.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jermaine.
Ellen Germain, 29. So everybody knows where this is all coming from with option 1, option 2.
Yeah, can you talk directly into the mic, Mr. Jermaine? You can turn it around, that's fine.
Thank you. It was the FinCom's intention at the joint meeting with the Select Board that we looked at, we have a 10-year capital plan, and we seemed to be kicking the can down the road. And we were putting stuff off, and then there was delays in getting equipment. If you order a brand new school bus today, correct me, you don't see it for 18 months. If you order a brand new fire engine, you don't see that for 26 months. So if we kick the can another year, then we wait another 3 years to get a piece of equipment. So this puts us in peril. So my intent was, and it was a suggestion from the Finance Committee, that we bond the town hall, which looked like some third world country town hall, and we bond the library, we get them done, and then there was an addition for the roof that was going to be on next year's capital plan, that we roll that into this one, as well as the roof on town hall, as well as paint the building, the library. Get it all done. That would then, in turn, put all the money that we needed to put back into the capital plan, back into the capital plan to keep it on track. because kicking the can is only going to cost us down the road. Then we're going to be trying to override budgets and come up with debt exclusions to buy equipment that we really don't want to finance. I'd much rather see a bond go for real estate and physical property improvement than see a bond go out to buy a piece of equipment. So that was how we come up with how we suggested that capital outlay come up with plan A, B, and C. And it just makes the most amount of sense to me. This library should have had new air conditioning in it 5 years ago. It's just now getting done. The town hall should have had siding 5 years ago. In fact, we kept putting money away to paint it until we finally figured out that that was foolish. So now we're siding it with vinyl. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave. It's vinyl siding, looks like shingles, and plastic trim. So we're done. We don't have to deal with this for 20, 25 more years, and thank God I won't be here. So it's the next guy that can worry about it, but that's why we did it the way we did it. We thought it was the best way to move forward. Unfortunately, last year was a little bit better finance rate. This year we're looking at like 4% versus last year's 3%, but it's still pretty negligible.
Thank you, Mr. Jermaine.
Oh, excuse me. And I forgot this is important because even Scott was shocked. The school bent over backwards to remove a lot of stuff from their capital plan. And you know me and buses, but they took the bus out. And because of the delay in getting a school bus, we wanted them to put it back. And even Scott thought that was shocking.
Thank you again. Yes, sir, on the right.
Paul Johnson, 3 Laurie Lane. The questions for either the finance director or the finance committee. We have a process that we go through annually for free cash. Unexpended budget items come back through the vote of a town meeting. Why is it that unexpended warrant articles aren't dealt with on an annual basis? It looks like what goes on is there's a slush fund up here, and when we want something special, we come up and tap into it. This should be an annual right. So I'd like to hear why that's not happening and what we're going to do to correct it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fennessy?
So good point, and that's a point that the select board dealt with this past year to change the finance policies, to look at the end of each year at the articles that have leftover monies and sweep them out and put it back into the to the town outside of those articles that are just sitting there. When I got here, there were tens and tens of those articles that were there, and like you said, you know, a lot of towns, town administrators, finance directors may do that as a rainy day issue, that if they needed something, they can pull from those articles and then use it. We're in the process of doing exactly what you said, is to sweep those out every year. When something's done and there's leftover money, that money will come back into the town's coffers and not sit there for year after year after year until somebody has a great idea to use it.
Thank you, Mr. Fennessy.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Jermaine.
from the Finance Committee standpoint, Paul, you're 100% right. There was money hanging out in these accounts when jobs were finished, and there was still money left over, and these accounts should have been swept to zero at the following town meeting. That will be done in the future. I don't know why it wasn't done in the past. I'm not saying that the FinCom wasn't doing their job. We weren't made aware of this stuff. It took me 3 months to find the Conservation Land Acquisition Trust Fund. It existed, we just couldn't find it. So this will not happen again next year. These accounts will be swept because I believe in past years they were intentionally overfunded. And I agree with you. I think that money was stuck in a rainy day fund.
Thank you, Mr. Jermaine.
Mr. Moderator? Sorry,
Yes, sir.
sorry, one last comment through you to town meeting members. In full disclosure on the remaining annual town meeting articles that have a balance, I believe we're down to pretty much one that has a health insurance reserve. Just to say that that is out there, that will roll into next year, and based on however the health insurance rates fluctuate, could be used. But that is really the only one left after you decide on this vote.
Thank you.
Absolutely correct.
Okay. Seeing no further hands and no further motion to the mics, we will go ahead and move forward with motion 1, or proposed motion 1, which has been made and seconded. This does require a 2/3 vote. The recommendation by the Select Board was 3-2. Finance Committee was, what, Mr. Jermaine? Do you have a vote on that, or?
No, we didn't, because the
didn't? Okay.
capital outlay hadn't finalized their plan yet. We did not have another town meeting,
Okay.
another finance committee meeting.
Thank you. And Capital Outlay Committee was 4-0. So again, this requires a 2/3 vote. We'll go ahead and open the vote now, and we'll give you 30 seconds. It's category 1. I'm sorry, it sounded like somebody had some confusion there. So it is category 1 that we're voting on right now. So being that I've added some clarification to that, I'll give you another 30 seconds. Okay, and we'll go ahead and close the vote. Okay, and the motion passes with 240 yes and 96 no. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.